Most billionaires follow a pattern, a set of principles and habits that, when applied consistently, lead to extraordinary financial success. It's not magic, luck, or a one-in-a-million chance. These principles are simple, timeless, and available to anyone willing to embrace them. John D. Rockefeller, the world's first billionaire, is a shining example of how foundational money skills can transform a life. He once said, "Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great." This mindset fueled his rise from humble beginnings to becoming one of the richest men in history. But here's the secret. Rockefeller's strategies aren't locked away in history books or reserved for the elite. They are principles you can adopt today. While it may seem like building immense wealth is out of reach, the truth is that anyone can achieve financial freedom by mastering the basics and applying them with discipline. Let's uncover the practical lessons from Rockefeller's life that you can use to create your own success story. John D. Rockefeller's journey to becoming the world's first billionaire started with a solid foundation, tracking every penny. At just 7 years old, he earned his first wages helping on a neighbor's farm. While most kids would have spent the money quickly, Rockefeller did something remarkable. He began keeping detailed records of every cent he earned and spent. His mother, a frugal woman who managed the household finances while his father traveled as a salesman, instilled in him the value of meticulous money management. This habit stayed with him for life and became a cornerstone of his financial success. Rockefeller's handwritten ledger, an early version of a cash flow statement, recorded everything. Over time, this simple practice gave him a deep understanding of his finances, enabling him to make calculated decisions about saving, spending, and investing. As Rockefeller himself noted, "The person who starts simply with the idea of getting rich won't succeed. You must have a larger ambition." For him, that ambition was fueled by knowing exactly where his money was going. When he entered the workforce as an assistant bookkeeper, his love for numbers was quickly noticed by his superiors. Unlike others, who avoided reviewing past projects or analyzing financial details, Rockefeller thrived on it. His meticulous nature earned him promotions and higher wages, laying the groundwork for his eventual transition from employee to entrepreneur. What can you learn from this? The path to wealth begins with understanding your money. Whether through apps, spreadsheets, or good old-fashioned notebooks, tracking your income and expenses gives you control over your financial future. Rockefeller's story reminds us that financial literacy isn't optional. It's the foundation of success. If you don't know where your money is going, how can you expect to multiply it? Lesson 1. Track every penny and embrace financial literacy. One of the most misunderstood aspects of wealth building is the use of borrowed money. Many people fear debt, viewing it as a trap or an unnecessary risk. However, John D. Rockefeller saw borrowing as a tool, a lever that, when used wisely, could amplify opportunities and accelerate growth. His life demonstrates that the right kind of borrowing, combined with careful planning, can be the key to unlocking wealth. When Rockefeller contributed to the startup capital for his first business, $200 of it came from a loan he secured from his father at a steep 10% interest. While most would hesitate to take on such an obligation, Rockefeller embraced it as a calculated risk. He didn't stop there. Throughout his career, he continued to borrow strategically, often selling shares to investors or taking loans to fund his ventures, even when he had enough of his own money to cover the costs. This allowed him to keep his personal reserves intact while ensuring his businesses had the capital needed to grow. The key to Rockefeller's approach was wisdom and foresight. He didn't borrow recklessly or use loans to fund luxuries. Instead, every dollar borrowed was put to work generating more value. As he put it, "If your only goal is to become rich, you will never achieve it." For Rockefeller, borrowing wasn't about immediate gains. It was a means to build sustainable wealth. His ability to repay debts on time earned him an impeccable financial reputation. Bankers and investors trusted him so deeply that they often extended credit based solely on his word. Rockefeller's story teaches us that borrowing isn't inherently good or bad. It's a tool that must be used carefully. If you're considering borrowing, ask yourself, will this loan create opportunities for growth, or will it simply add unnecessary stress? Used wisely, debt can be a stepping stone to financial freedom. Lesson 2. Borrow wisely and understand the power of leveraging debt. One of John D. Rockefeller's greatest strengths was his unwavering commitment to fulfilling his obligations, no matter how challenging the circumstances. He understood that a person's financial reputation is priceless, and he built his empire on a foundation of trust and reliability. From the very beginning, Rockefeller treated every debt and every promise as sacred. He meticulously tracked repayment schedules and ensured that all obligations were met on time, even when doing so was inconvenient or difficult. This discipline extended to his dealings with his father, who often visited Rockefeller's office demanding loan repayments at the most inopportune moments. Despite the challenges, Rockefeller always found a way to meet the demands. Over time, this earned him a sterling reputation in financial circles. Bankers came to trust his word implicitly, often offering him loans or funding projects based solely on his promises. Rockefeller's ability to honor commitments didn't just build trust, it created opportunities. Financial institutions were eager to partner with someone who consistently delivered, giving him access to resources that many of his competitors lacked. This reliability became one of the key drivers of his success, allowing him to expand his ventures rapidly and profitably. As Rockefeller's story illustrates, fulfilling obligations isn't just about ethics, it's a strategic advantage. A strong financial reputation opens doors to new opportunities, attracts investors, and fosters partnerships. In your own financial journey, this principle is just as critical. Pay your debts on time, honor your agreements, and maintain transparency in your dealings. As Rockefeller proved, trust is one of the most valuable currencies in the world. Lesson 3. Fulfill obligations with unwavering discipline. One of John D. Rockefeller's most remarkable qualities was his ability to approach every financial decision with precision and foresight. He understood that success wasn't about acting on impulse or chasing quick wins. It was about making calculated choices that balanced risk and reward. This discipline allowed him to borrow confidently, invest strategically, and build an empire that outlasted his competitors. Before committing to any decision, Rockefeller would carefully weigh its potential outcomes. When borrowing money, he planned exactly how and when he would repay it, considering the interest costs and the returns he could generate. If he invested in a project, he analyzed whether it would increase efficiency, reduce costs, or multiply profits. For him, every dollar was a seed, and he wouldn't plant it unless he was confident it would yield results. This meticulous approach extended to his operations as well. When other oil producers were content with outdated and inefficient methods, Rockefeller revolutionized the industry. He replaced wooden barrels with railway tank cars, significantly reducing transportation costs. He invested in fireproofing refineries, realizing that the upfront costs were far outweighed by the savings from preventing disasters. He even built his own shipping fleet to reduce costs and increase control over his supply chain. These innovations were seen as risky at the time, but Rockefeller's calculations ensured they paid off handsomely. When his partners hesitated to invest in some of these groundbreaking ideas, Rockefeller didn't compromise. Instead, he would tell them, "I'll invest alone, but the profits will be mine alone too." This confidence often brought his partners back to the table, knowing that his calculated risks almost always led to success. The lesson here is clear. Every financial decision has a price, and the more carefully you evaluate that price, the more likely you are to achieve your goals. Don't act blindly or emotionally. Analyze the potential costs and benefits, think long-term, and ensure that every choice aligns with your broader financial strategy. Rockefeller's legacy proves that calculated decisions, no matter how bold, are the key to sustainable wealth. Lesson 4. Calculate every decision for maximum returns. John D. Rockefeller's approach to wealth was grounded in a deep understanding of the value of long-term thinking. He knew that real success wasn't achieved through short-term gains, but by investing in ventures that would pay off over time, even if the path was challenging or uncertain. Rockefeller often said, "I always tried to turn every disaster into an opportunity." His resilience in the face of adversity, combined with his strategic foresight, helped him build not only immense wealth but also an enduring legacy. One of the most powerful examples of this mindset came in the early days of his career, when he recognized that the oil industry, despite its vast potential, was inefficient and prone to failure. Many oilmen were stuck in outdated practices, such as transporting oil in wooden barrels and using unsafe crude refineries. While they saw the industry as a temporary boom, Rockefeller saw it as a long-term opportunity to reshape and dominate. He wasn't afraid to make significant investments in improving production methods, infrastructure, and safety, even when many others considered it unnecessary. For instance, when the oil industry was primarily using wooden barrels to transport oil by horse-drawn wagons, Rockefeller saw the inefficiency and high costs of this method. Instead of following the status quo, he introduced rail transportation of oil in tank cars, an innovation that drastically reduced shipping costs and increased efficiency. He didn't stop there. He also invested in building a more reliable infrastructure, including fireproofing refineries, which many others saw as too expensive or unnecessary. He understood that investing in these improvements would not only reduce costs, but also safeguard his investments from potential risks. In another key move, Rockefeller built his own fleet of ships when he realized that it was more cost-effective to transport oil via sea than by train. His partners considered this a risky and costly endeavor, but Rockefeller saw the long-term benefits. By controlling the entire supply chain, he could reduce costs, increase efficiency, and maximize profits. These examples demonstrate Rockefeller's vision of wealth as something built on strategic investments in the future, not just quick wins. He understood that every decision had a price, but if the return was high enough, it was worth the investment. For Rockefeller, long-term wealth was about having the patience and foresight to make decisions that might seem risky or unconventional at the time, but would pay off in the future. The lesson here is powerful. True wealth comes from making decisions with a long-term perspective, even when others doubt or avoid them. Whether you're building a business, investing in the stock market, or managing your personal finances, it's important to think beyond immediate returns. The key to sustained success is in understanding the potential of your investments over time and being willing to make bold, forward-thinking decisions that will set you up for the future. John D. Rockefeller's innovative thinking was central to his rise to becoming the wealthiest man in America. While many of his contemporaries followed conventional approaches, Rockefeller wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo and create new systems that would propel him ahead of the competition. His ability to see opportunities in areas where others saw obstacles or inefficiencies made him a pioneer, particularly in the oil industry. He understood that building wealth wasn't just about following existing models. It was about creating new ways to do business, and doing so on a scale that few others could imagine. One of the most powerful examples of this came when Rockefeller revolutionized the way oil was transported and distributed. In the early days of the oil industry, oilmen relied on outdated methods, wooden barrels and horse-drawn wagons to ship oil, a system that was inefficient, expensive, and prone to breakdowns. Rather than accepting these limitations, Rockefeller looked at the problem and saw an opportunity to reduce costs and increase efficiency. He introduced the use of rail cars to transport oil, which was far cheaper and more reliable than the methods used by his competitors. This innovation wasn't just about cutting costs, it also gave Rockefeller a competitive edge. As others stuck to traditional methods, Rockefeller's new transportation system allowed him to move oil across the country more efficiently and at a lower cost. He then used this advantage to negotiate better deals with railroads, effectively securing cheaper shipping rates for himself. This innovative thinking turned what could have been a simple logistical problem into a massive business advantage. Rockefeller didn't just stop with oil transportation. He also understood the importance of owning the infrastructure that supported his business. When he recognized that shipping oil via rail was costly due to the high fees charged by railroad companies, he took matters into his own hands. Rather than continuing to pay exorbitant fees, he built his own fleet of ships and controlled the entire supply chain, from production to transportation to delivery. By doing so, he drastically reduced his costs and gained even more control over his business. These innovations were seen as risky by many at the time. His partners often questioned the wisdom of investing in such expensive new technologies, and many saw it as a gamble. But Rockefeller was not deterred. He was always willing to invest in infrastructure, machinery, and technologies that could give him a long-term advantage, even when others doubted his vision. His willingness to take calculated risks and invest in innovation paid off, allowing him to dominate the oil industry and build an empire that lasted for decades. The lesson here is clear. In the pursuit of wealth, creativity and innovation are just as important as financial knowledge. Whether you're looking to scale a business, improve your investments, or create wealth from scratch, the ability to think outside the box and challenge traditional ways of doing things can give you a significant advantage. Don't be afraid to explore new methods, build new systems, or invest in technologies that can give you an edge in the marketplace. The most successful entrepreneurs and investors throughout history have been those who weren't afraid to innovate and create the future they wanted to see.